Well, hey, everybody, this is Kim Stevens, your community leader for the Women of the Channel Leadership Network, and welcome to another WOW session. With me today is a beloved advisory board member, and that is Wendy Welch, who is with Lenovo. Wendy, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Kim, it's great to see you this afternoon.
So guys, I just want to get this right. So Wendy, she just changed jobs. By the way, always channel. Once in the channel, you're always in the channel. But Wendy is the executive director of U.S. Public Sector for Lenovo North America. Congratulations on that recent change.
Thank you, Kim. And, I think as we're going to talk, it's just, part of my journey, but also part of putting myself out there and being willing to take a risk.
Tell us about how you progress in your career and anything that you want to highlight along the way.
15 years after being in higher education in a fairly niche market, I made a big seismic shift. I was in that field for 9 years, and I just thought, my resume is so different now. My experience and my confidence is so different. I need to go on the open market and do my own due diligence, which led me to Lenovo. What's interesting for me, and I like to share this, the position I applied for at Lenovo is not the role they hired me for.
Oh, okay.
It got me access in the VP and Chief Commercial Officer, Marche Manfield. I was interviewing with her, and she actually said to me, Wendy, I think there's something else you can do for us here. We're making some changes. I'd like you to come back to Raleigh and interview with the leadership team. And I actually kind of wondered if it was a trick question. I just thought to myself, I'm like, how do I answer this? Is she testing my interest in her role? And that probably says more about me than her, but it was very genuine. And what I've learned over time, it's very reflective of Lenovo's approach to recruitment and talent development. Is we value people that are utility players. We value fresh perspective and diversity of thought. So long story short, Marche created an opportunity for me to meet with the senior leadership team. Rob Cato, our channel chief, North America channel chief, came in. I shared my introduction, and he asked me, have you thought about the channel? And I said yes, and that's the end of the start of a new story, if you will. So coming up on 3 years with Lenovo, moving to Lenovo and moving to channel has been fantastic. What I had not anticipated in September of 19, as I, again, changed industries, moved from end user sales to channel sales, a much, much larger company than I had been a part of prior. 5 months in, we would start our experience with the global pandemic. So talk about pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, stretching yourself to grow, being in part of a new organization, a new leadership team. It was hard. It was a hard transition, but it wasn't as hard as when I had moved prior. Why that was, I now had a methodology. I knew I had gone through those large shifts before. I knew it took time. I knew how to reach out and rely on people. And most importantly, I just knew how to give myself a break. I think so many of us, especially women, we're hard on ourselves. We're drivers, we're critical, and big transitions and ramping into a new role and observing and assessing, it takes time.
I think your journey could easily have been riddled with the opportunity to question your abilities. So, I mean, we're all human, we all wonder and question ourselves, but going through that, did you struggle with that at all? And how did you get through that?
Absolutely. It's the first time, and I remember the dear coworker that said to me on one of my changes, oh, just you fake it till you make it, which at the time, I did not know that really reflects the imposter syndrome. And there's a whole body of work about the imposter syndrome. As I've shared more of my story, I really thought those feelings, and especially the notion of imposter syndrome, just applied to women in the workplace. And as I've shared, I've had male colleagues approach me and say, tell me more. I've felt that way as I've made transitions. So for me, it really comes down to the fact we're all humans, we all are confident, and we all can have our insecurities. And when you push yourself to take on a new role, the only person that might expect that you're the expert on day one is you. Not your boss, not your coworkers. Everyone's gone through their own ramps and transitions, and they understand there's the process. So for me, I used to feel that way. I used to question, am I ready for this role? Am I really qualified? Was I the best candidate? And it was this experience joining Lenovo that has completely pushed that to the side for me. Rob Cato and I talked about it. I was not the traditional choice to come in to lead his distribution of our business. We actually talked about how were we going to message and explain why he chose me. And what he said to me, and it was a difference maker, what he needed at that time was not a traditional channel leader. He had and still has an incredibly strong channel leadership team. He needed someone to come in and help with transformation. And that was what I brought to the table through my own journey and my own prior experiences. So this process and how Lenovo evaluated me, not because I checked every box or frankly any box on that job description, it was rather looking at my entire experience and my entire skill set. And really it was more of this, how I felt it, how I kind of internalized my recruitment experience with Lenovo. It was more like, holy smokes, let's turn her loose and see what she can do next. And frankly, I think that's reflected in the recent promotion. I just have taken on the challenge to come on and lead our US public sector sales organization. I have prior public sector experience. It is frankly a little dated in my resume, but it's also as Lenovo's going through transformation. I've been in the organization 3 years, so I understand Lenovo, but I also bring a fresher perspective to our North America leadership team. And I'll tell you, and I've told my team this, I've been doing some roundtables. I'm just completing my first quarter. How's it going? You know, some days and some meetings, it's going fantastic. I know what the answer is. I know what the process is. I know who to go to. And then I can turn around and be in the next meeting and I'm confused. I don't know what anyone's talking about. I don't understand the acronym and I'm uncomfortable, and that's okay. We need to push ourselves to be uncomfortable if we want to continue to grow and stretch and learn in our careers.
Along your journey, have you ever felt any sort of, I'll just call it gender bias along the way? And how did you maneuver that?
The most supportive career champions in general have been men. I think some of that is reflective of the ratios in leadership throughout my time in career. When I have felt kind of that bias or someone challenging my choices, that's general neutral. And really the point in my career that I learned to ignore some of that noise was, it was as I was moving into my first managed sales leadership role. I had gone through a mentorship process where I really needed to be more intentional about my career. I'd had a lot of success in my career. I'd had some setbacks, but I could look back and realize that my journey had been largely passive. And what I mean by that is I'd work hard, someone would approach me with an opportunity and I'd say yes or no. And where I said yes, I'd go on to ramp up, become comfortable, I'd have success, and the next opportunity would be presented to me. I learned that I had specific goals and aspirations, and I had to be more intentional to have that career growth. So again, it was a mentor that really helped me focus on how do I be intentional about my career planning? How do I be intentional about elevating my personal brand within my organization and being comfortable sharing my aspirations? Because if you don't tell anyone, no one knows, and you want that sponsorship in your organization. And what I mean by that is I want someone who's going to talk about me and advocate for me and my successes when I'm not in the room. And it's hard for someone to do that if you haven't expressed your aspiration. So as I was going through that, I think, kind of maturity and in my career and my own confidence, I had, several coworkers, starting to say to me, oh, well, you're just trying to climb the ladder, and with a very negative connotation. And I would take it personally. Well, that sounds very negative, and that why would you accuse me? Because it would come across very accusatory. And what I had to get comfortable with was, yes, I have career aspirations, and that's okay. And they can be different than yours. And however you want to interpret my intentions is on you. I don't internalize that anymore.
Is there something that you've learned that you know now that, geez, don't you wish you knew right when you started out?
It sounds silly and outdated in today's world, but it still matters, and that is networking. And coming out of college in the early 90s, my family and my examples were much more small business owners, some blue collar workers, very hardworking, strong work ethic. But my family didn't come from large enterprise business. So I did not have that type of network, and I didn't understand the value of it. And I wasn't comfortable when people would extend. I can remember coming out of college, I worked in the financial aid office, and one of the loan officers like offered to help me. Let's do some career planning, open up some networking. And I turned it down. Here was someone that was offering my help, offering to help me get started in my career. And I didn't understand the value of that. And it frankly took me longer than it should have early in my career to really understand the power of my network. I understood my relationships, but now not my network. And I understand that in a different way. And I talk about, I've really have shaped and I cultivate intentionally my own personal board of directors. And what that means for me is it's about 8 people over different points in my career that have seen significant milestones, have coached me through different transitions, and I stay very connected with them. You know, when I have this success or I have a failure and a setback and I need their advice, you know, I share how their insights help me on the success, and I bounce the failure off them on because they know me in a different way. Yeah. And they can help me reset. So for me, when I'm especially mentoring people early in career, I really stress, and with LinkedIn and social media and the tools we have today, it's easy to feel that you have this incredibly large, vast network, but how are you really cultivating those that are most influential in your career and can help you in your career? And you can't do that by just posting on LinkedIn or liking their comment on LinkedIn. You need to keep a warm connection. And that's maybe once a year, dropping a note of, I just won this large deal. I had this challenge and your advice helped me in this way. Like when we invest in others, it's exciting to hear how it's helpful over time.
What are some things that you do as a leader to continue to grow and develop your skills as a leader?
Yeah, making time for your own professional development is important. It can be hard because depending on your leadership style, personally, I lean more towards the servant leadership style. Yeah. So I give to others, I give to the business, I give to customers. So making sure I'm carving that time out for myself doesn't come naturally. So it is intentional on how do I stay engaged in Women of the Channel or several of the other women's groups that are available through us as being in technology and being in sales. It's taking advantage of some of the opportunities within my own organization, and that's our ERG groups and some of our ongoing development opportunities. But for me, it's also just the passion for making sure I'm relevant, I'm current, I'm staying up on trends, because my journey's not done yet. And I cannot achieve the rest of my career goals without pushing myself for growth. So I do think everyone learns in different ways. And you know, if it's by shadowing or podcasts or just trial and error, but I think there's always got to be a mix and a balance. So for me, some of the TED Talks, I love some of the HBR articles, but then it's also seeking out some of the seminars and professional development opportunities that exist in our organization within Lenovo, but also I think some of the power of being a channel professional. And it's what I noticed when I first came over to Lenovo and my first move into the channel, and what I think it's so special about the channel space is the professional development and career network opportunities we have are just unrivaled in the sales space.
Wendy, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you doing this.
Well, thank you, Kim. You know, I have a huge passion for our leadership community and women in the channel. So I really appreciate the time being able to share more of my story.
Well, you guys, you can see why we love having her on the advisory board. Okay, so just enough said. And she is so instrumental in making sure that we are always bringing our best foot forward. So Wendy, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next WOW session. Thanks for joining. Take care.